Okay, I'm going to cover something I've already covered before, but this is going to be new to this channel. If you've ever read, and most everybody that's gone through the school system has at least have heard of the saga of Beowulf. It's the great literary tome of the Anglo-Saxons, and in it the protagonist. Well, let's go over it. There's Beowulf is the hero of the story, and Grendel is the monster in the story. And Beowulf is there, and he's trying to help the king because he's a warrior of renown, and he fights this monster Beowulf, and then he goes and kills Beowulf's mother, who's also a monster, and then at the end of the story, he's also killed by a monster, a third one. Now, if you go through if you look at and read the story honestly, with an open mind, remember the word dinosaur wasn't invented until 1845. Before that, dinosaurs were called dragons. Dinosaur is a new word. Was, like I said, wasn't even invented until then to describe the iguanodon. But if you reread Beowulf, and you're gonna have to read a translation because it was in Old English, which is, if you don't have any training, you're gonna be so lost we won't even be able to get anything out of it. But if you read it with an open mind, Grendel is described as being large, with a tail, with iron teeth and small arms. And that's how Beowulf beats Grendel. There's a cut on the arm, and he pulls the arm off. Well, if you look at, now I'm not saying this exact dinosaur replica is Grendel. It was probably some kind of theropod. This one actually has kind of large front arms for a theropod. It's squatting in this position, but if you look at it, I'm 5'10", and we're approximately the same height, but standing full upright would be approximately maybe 6.5 foot tall. Now the average person back at the time then, now granted this was in the Northlands where they grew a little taller, but the average height back then was probably about 5'8". So this would have been towering over everybody else, and it had big iron teeth. Now if you look at the biting capacity of a theropod, I have a wolf as a pet, or I've had a wolf as a pet, and they have twice the biting power of a German Shepherd. So assume this has about at least twice that power, and with the teeth being much larger, they can inflict great bites. And the freak out factor obviously would be pretty high. When you see something like that, it seems even bigger and scarier. You're more paralyzed with fear. Anyway, in the story, he goes and he sets a trap, and in the Great Hall, and they rip the forearm off of, or excuse me, the arm off of the monster. And if you can see his even this one that has a big arm for a theropod, it's about like mine. I mean, if he's got rid of the claws. Actually, I think my arm is actually bigger than this one, but well, I've got a big arm anyway. But I mean, just saying, this thing, for something that's 6.5 foot tall, its main killing ability is its teeth and its the giant toe claws. Now these things will obviously mess you up a little bit, but its main weapons are going to be its teeth. So anyway, going back to the story, if you've ripped something's arm off, it's going to bleed out unless it can apply a tourniquet, which obviously being a dinosaur / dragon, it didn't do it. But anyway, check out, reread Beowulf. If you haven't ever read it before, you need to anyway. And every time they say monster in there, think dinosaur or dragon. And like I said, all throughout history, dinosaurs have been with man up until recently. There's probably still some in the ocean. There's probably still some in Borneo. There's obviously references to pterodactyls. They call them the ropin. and the Condamato in Central Africa. Here's a little baby T-Rex that they've got mounted here. It's pretty cool. We're here at the San Antonio Aquarium. Let's go look at some of the other stuffed animals while I'm here. So this is a Dilophosaurus. Again, this is a theropod. Note the large teeth, small front limbs. And here's a juvenile T-Rex. And this is at the San Antonio Aquarium off Bandera Road. They have mainly aquatic stuff, but upstairs they've got several stuffed animals. And I'd like to cover the Triceratops a little bit here. So there was a village in France that renamed itself after a monster that was driven away and killed. And in the description of the monster, it had 3 horns on its face and a crest. Well, that's a Triceratops. And you can look at, oh, there he's making noise. So anyway, they have a festival every year celebrating this monster that had 3 horns on its face. Now let's go over here. Here we have this is the one that's mentioned, the Stegosaurus. The Irish Chronicle was made up of really 4 books, actually 5 books. One actually called the Irish Chronicle, and the Chronicles of Ulster, the Chronicles of Connacht. Anyway, they were a compilation of stories of ancient Ireland, and in one of them they mentioned this monster that terrorized the area, and he had plates on his back, and he had iron spikes on his tail. Well, that's and he had a horse's face. He had a head like a horse. So let's go look at this. That's cool. It's the nearest thing they would have to describe it would be a horse. So anyway, the old Irish chronicles mention this, and this is circa 550 AD. And they would call it a monster or a dragon back then. But this is a herbivore. But if it was mating season, he would be a little rascalous and knock people over, and just like a deer. You've seen these deer hunters out during rutting season, and they just get mauled by a deer. The deer just ramps up and starts knocking them around. So anyway, check out the Irish Chronicle, and it mentions what I believe is this in it. And come check out the San Antonio Aquarium. And I got more stuff on different YouTube channels about dinosaurs. Edward Monahan, Pat Moynihan, Patrick Moynihan, and TimbosPlace.com. Don't forget to like the video. Thank you. I'm out.